So Matthew, how many rumors did we discuss about DJI's new drone since last year?
I only remember talking about the two, and the Mavic Mini, and then there was the Phantom 5. I don't ever remember talking about the Mavic Air 2.
Oh, that's because the Mavic Air 2 really wasn't a rumor. I mean, this is the most leaked DJI product before launch. Everyone knew what it was.
Aha, that's right, because FCC filing clearly stated the name Mavic Air 2.
And fortunately, we got our hands on a unit before product launch. We just spent the past few days testing it, and today we're sharing our first impression with you on DJI's new Mavic Air 2. Personally, I never followed that closely with the Mavic Air lineup. But Matthew, you had a Mavic Air 1, right?
I did, Ife. To be honest with you, it was my backup drone for quite a while, and I must say it was definitely one of the sexiest looking drones that I have. I'm a little bit disappointed with the new look of the new drone.
A lot of people said that. I know the new Mavic Air 2 kind of lost that characteristic look from Mavic Air 1. Now it's just more consistent with Mavic Mini and Mavic 2 Pro.
Yeah, I think I'm going to overlook how unsexy it looks because the specs really do look very interesting.
It actually over-delivered on the camera specs. I was surprised on that too, because Mavic Air 2 shoots 4K 60 frames per second, and Mavic 2 Pro only does 4K 30.
I know. I'm really looking forward to see what this 4K 60 looks like after we shot it on the field and you guys went out to do post-processing. I haven't even seen it yet, so I'm really looking forward to seeing
We
this.
actually took it to several landmark spots after our field testing, and let me show you what the footage looks like.
Oh yes, famous landmark. I know this place. It's just so weird to see, Ife. It just looks so apocalyptic. I know considering the situation right now with COVID-19, it's very odd.
I know as much as we hate the current situation, we were actually able to hit a couple of landmark spots that we usually can't film there because they're always so crowded.
So I'm assuming Alex was shooting this at 4K 60. Looks pretty smooth.
4K 60 with D-Cine-like and H.265.
Nice. It does seem a little bit over-sharpened to me.
We heard the same thing from a couple of other reviewers as well. It seems the videos are a bit over-sharpened. And the problem with over-sharpening is it's irreversible.
Can't go backwards, that's right. And also I'm looking at the shadows. Do you see that?
The shadows, yeah, I was just about to say. The shadows are a bit noisy in D-Cine-like.
I think we're just too spoiled with the Mavic Pro 2 with the Hasselblad for me.
Well, with Mavic 2 Pro, keep in mind you're shooting 10-bit with D-Log, and the Mavic Air 2, you're shooting only 8-bit with D-Cine-like, so that's the difference, right?
A lot less information.
The other highlights on the video feature for Mavic Air 2 is the 1080p you can shoot 240 frames per second. So we also shot some samples with that.
Ife, this is incredible. I've never seen a drone flying and see like everything's in slow motion, so smooth. It's weird, but yet it does look a little soft to me.
That's what we noticed in the 1080p 240, especially on the big screen. You can tell it looks a bit soft.
Yeah, but this is just going to give so much opportunity to be very creative with your footage now.
And at each platform you deliver it on, I mean, for content creators who mostly use mobile platforms, the quality looks really good. Now, let me also show you the highlight of the feature for photos, which is the 48 megapixel images from Mavic Air 2.
So, Ife, here comes the big question. 48 megapixels, really?
This was kind of a surprise, a pleasant surprise, because as you know, Alex is always skeptical. Before we got the drone and before we dug a little more into the actual sensors, he suspected this was some kind of a software enhancement. but actually it is a 48 megapixel sensor. It's the quad Bayer sensor. So what it does, it divides the pixel, so each pixel is a bit smaller. What happens if you shoot 48 megapixel pictures, you need to make sure that you have enough light. Now, the upside of that is if you shoot, let's say by default, if you shoot the 12 megapixel pictures, then each pixel is actually a lot bigger. So apparently, the Mavic Air 2 actually handles low light conditions better than the Mavic 2 Pro.
I got to see this to believe it.
Especially for all of your twilight shots, right? Would be really interesting to try out.
I'm going to have to bring this in to test it.
Also, for the camera settings, we noticed you don't have aperture control. So we're working with the fixed aperture f2.8. Now, also, you can't adjust the sharpness, saturation, or contrast.
Yeah, I mean, for me, that was a no-go. I like to personally control what I want, when I want, and where I want it, and to have the software determine what it's going to be. I wasn't a fan of that.
You mean you're the same control freak like Alex? So
Oh,
when
no,
you
no, no.
guys
Alex
are
is much
looking,
worse.
when you guys are looking at this, you're seeing this as limited features. But for someone, let's say, who does content production or someone who doesn't want to do that much of post work, the other side of the coin is really these are simplified settings, right? And that's what DJI Fly app is really for. It's for more simplified control features comparing to obviously DJI Go 4 on the Mavic 2 Pro, right?
Yeah, they definitely designed this more for a consumer.
Now, I was actually surprised with the Fly More combo. It came with a set of ND filters.
Yeah, I was pleasantly surprised, and I must say I'm happy that they included it. They gave you the propellers, they give you the batteries. Why not include the ND filters as well?
Now, the only thing is it came with 3 filters. So we've got the ND 16, 64, and ND 256.
256.
First
That's
time I've
crazy.
actually seen an ND 256, right?
Me too. I've never even used one, to be honest with you, so I'm surprised.
And we noticed the other thing because when we put the ND16 on for the Mavic Air 2, it just felt like it was looking dark. So what we decided to do was to put it side by side with the Mavic 2 Pro. And you can see here both have the ND16 filter on, and we try to match the camera settings here as well, so they're both the same, looking at the same thing. And do you notice the difference?
Yeah, what a difference. I mean, look at the sky comparison to one to the other, and the settings are identical.
It's actually 2 stops lower on the Mavic Air 2 versus the Mavic 2 Pro. It's a question we're asking DJI. I'm not sure if it's just because we actually got the drone with some defect issues on it. So I'm not sure if it's just the ND filter set that came with it that has the wrong settings. We don't know yet.
It'd be interesting. Either it's software or it is something with the drone. So it'd be interesting to see what that is all about.
Aside from the ND filters, so on the other hardware notes from the Mavic Air 2, I'm not sure if you noticed with it's an all-new controller from DJI, right?
Honestly, Ife, I think they did a decent job. I like the place of where they put the phone on the top. It actually helps balance it out when you're holding it. You know, the antennas are kind of funny. You have to kind of point in a certain direction. I like the fact that it has enough power that you can charge the phone with it. I think overall they did a decent job, better than the older models.
So basically you said that the pros from the new controller, I'm with you on that. I really like the position of the phone on the top. I think that really makes sense versus looking at the screen at the bottom of the controller, right? And it is a really powerful battery on the new controller. You can actually charge your phone with it, which is great. But the ergonomics, I didn't like how the controller felt. And with the fixed position antenna, because on the other DJI controllers, you can actually change the angle of the antenna, and they're all directional antenna, right? So you really have to be careful to point it at the drone when you are flying. Otherwise, you may lose video signal, right, from the antenna. So that's one thing I didn't really love, because the antenna on this controller is completely fixed position. And same thing, you can't tilt the angle of your phone screen, right? That's all fixed position as well.
Yeah, I mean, if you're flying in conditions where you don't have a hood and you're going to have to adjust, the look, you're going to have some
depending on
issues
the sun
maybe with the
position.
antenna.
For sure.
Yeah.
Well, I guess that's why you have the alternative because the smart controller will be compatible with Mavic Air 2. So, I mean, if you're picky like me, you can always go get the DJI smart controller instead. Now, besides the controller, I still think Mavic Air 2 delivered pretty well from the hardware. I mean, it's got 34 minutes of flight time, right? Which is the longest from the Mavic lineup.
Yeah, I mean, flying it the other day, Ife, in that really windy condition, I was pleasantly surprised with number one, how I was still flying longer than I would with the Mavic 2. And also, it was really windy and unstable, but the footage actually still looked pretty good.
We got 28 minutes basically in the high wind situation before it hit the critical battery. And just like you said, in the high wind situation, I know you and Alex were a bit skeptical, especially comparing to the Mavic 2 Pro side by side in the air, but the end footage actually looked really smooth.
Yeah, I kind of wish I had made a bet with Alex because I was pleasantly surprised. I thought for sure it would be shaky.
Now, Matthew, the ultimate question for you is, would you buy the Mavic Air 2?
Oh, Mr. Quick Finger, right, with the button? Listen, for me, it is definitely better than a Mavic Mini. But because I'm so kind of spoiled with the Mavic Pro 2, for me, it wouldn't be something that I would use. I would definitely recommend it for most consumers, people that are being creatives. Highly recommend it. But again, for me, being somewhat more professional, I like more control. I want to be able to adjust my footage and do all that stuff. It's not something that I would buy.
And what I also find from our students and clients is, not everyone works with drones every day like us, right? So
Hmm.
for a lot of people who, let's say, mostly deal with ground camera, and this is just the add-on, they want to have the ability to capture some aerial shots, but not on a regular basis. So they want something higher quality than Mavic Mini, but because they don't use it regularly enough to justify the price point for Mavic 2 Pro, then this really is a good middle ground. And you really get a really good quality product for basically the value, right? For the price point.
You know what they say, Ife, you get bang for your buck. It's a great value.
Aside from the camera perspective, we also see some interesting intelligent flight modes on really the new Mavic Air 2. And unfortunately, we didn't get to test them because the model we got had some defect. So really waiting for a working unit in our hands so we can test some of the fun features, right? The focus tracking, active track, the HDR video, and I know you guys are super interested in testing the hyperlapse with 8K.
8K time lapse, yeah. 8K
That should
hyperlapse.
be
I'm looking
really
forward to that.
interesting. Yeah. Well, since this is our first impression video on the Mavic Air 2, we're looking forward to getting a new unit in our hands and bringing you a more in-depth testing video.
Restricted zone reached.